In this video, we'll be looking at the manipulability of the voting systems we've been learning about so far. So a voting system, recall, is subject to manipulability if there are elections in which it is to a voter's advantage to submit a ballot misrepresenting his or her true preferences. And we're going to start by looking at an example where we're using the Borda count. So we've got an election here with two voters choosing between candidates A, B, C, and D. Recall with the Borda count that points are awarded with 3 points given for every first place vote, 2 points for a second place vote, 1 point for a third place vote, and no points are awarded for a fourth place vote. So we start by computing our Borda scores for each candidate. See that candidate A has a Borda score of 4. B receives a Borda score of 5. C receives a Borda score of 3. And D receives a Borda score of 0. So if the election were held just like this, then the winner would be candidate B, as that candidate has the highest Borda score. Okay, but notice that voter 1 here really preferred candidate A. They really had candidate A as their top choice. So since voter 1 wanted A to win, suppose that voter decided to submit an insincere ballot, which is, of course, a misrepresentation of their true preferences. So they decide they're just going to change their rank. So this is how the election was originally. This is their actual feelings on the matter. But voter 1 decides that they're going to instead submit an insincere ballot to see if they can force their top choice candidate A to win. So instead of voting how they really feel, they decide they're going to submit a list like this, where they have candidate D in second place, and they move candidate B down to fourth place. So with these two ballots, if we compute the new Borda scores, we see that A still has a Borda score of 4, B now has a Borda score of 3, C a Borda score of 3, and D now has a Borda score of 2. So with this now insincere ballot, sure enough, voter 1 was able to allow candidate A to win. Here's another quick example, again using the Borda count. Here we have 6 voters choosing between 5 candidates, A through E. We compute the Borda score for each candidate. And because candidate B has the highest score, candidate B would win. Okay, but is it possible for one of these voters to change the election so that candidate A wins? So we're going to focus on voter 1, since voter 1 has candidate A as their top choice. And suppose they decide to make a switch in their preference list, and they just switch the order of how they had candidates B and D. So now if we redo the election with our new Borda scores, we see that sure enough, they would be able to get their top choice candidate A to win. So the strategy here is pretty simple. If you think that your candidate may lose, then you would want to move the candidate that you think will win down lower on your preference list so that that candidate receives fewer points. So you can see voter 1 had an inkling that maybe candidate B was going to win, so they simply took candidate B and moved that candidate down lower on their preference list. And that lowered the Borda score for candidate B, and so that candidate A was able to win. All right, what about the sequential pairwise method? So recall this uses an agenda or a list of candidates. We first vote between the first 2 candidates on the agenda, and they go head to head, and the loser is eliminated. We pair the winner off with the next candidate in the agenda, and then just repeat this process and continue until only one candidate is left. And so manipulation of the sequential pairwise method uses what's called agenda manipulation, which is the ability to control who wins by changing the order of the candidates in the agenda. So here is an election with 3 voters choosing between 4 candidates. And suppose we really want candidate A to be the winner. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at who beats who in a one-on-one contest and then manipulate the agenda accordingly. Okay, now if we want candidate A to be the winner, to give that candidate the best shot possible, we want that candidate to go last in the agenda, right? That way they only have to beat one other person. So if we want A to be the winner, we're going to put A last on our agenda. Notice that A beats candidates B and D one-on-one, but would lose to candidate C. So we want to get candidate C out of the way. We're going to put candidate C first in the list. Now, since candidate C loses to candidate B one-on-one, we can put B next, and then, of course, D's got to go somewhere. So we would try the agenda C, B, D, A. All right, so if we do that, we start with candidate C versus B. B will win, so C is eliminated. B will move on to take on D. B will win, so D is eliminated. And then B will lastly take on A. But A can beat B one-on-one, and therefore we were able to make it so that candidate A wins. Great, so the basic strategy is the person you want to be the winner, you want to put them last in your agenda. And any candidates that could beat them one-on-one, you want to go as early as possible in the agenda to try to get them out of the way. Lastly, let's use this selection to show that the Hare system is manipulable. So here we have 5 voters choosing between candidates A through D. And let's first determine who the winner in the selection would be using the Hare system. So we look at those first place votes. We see that A, B, and D each receive 1 first place vote, where candidate C receives 2. So since we eliminate the candidate with the fewest first place votes, in this case, we would eliminate candidates A, B, and D. Only C remains, so C would be the winner. Okay, but can this voter here change their ballot to force a more desirable outcome? So this voter that we see here, C is just their third choice, right? They really would not want C to be the ultimate winner. They would much prefer A or B. So we're going to see if this voter can change their preference list around to force a more desirable outcome. So to force either candidates A or B to win. All right, so here's our original election where the winner was C. And we're going to suppose that this voter changes their preference list so that it looks like this. So they swap the order of candidates A and B. All right, so now when we do the Hare system, the first candidate to be eliminated would be candidate A. Candidate A now receives 0 first place votes. So candidate A would be eliminated. And then since candidate D has the next fewest with 1, then candidate D would be eliminated. And we're down to just candidates B and C. So let's rewrite the ballots, focusing just on candidates B and C. And now we see that candidate C has the fewest first place votes. So that candidate is eliminated, and candidate B would be our winner. Now, we always want to check that this was a desirable outcome, right? So this particular voter who changed their preference list, they would prefer candidate B to candidate C. So this would be a desirable manipulation for this candidate. Great. Now, you may wonder, how would a person know that they would want to do this type of manipulation? And for that, you want to check out the next video on the effect of polling. I'll see you then.